Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is the last Friday in October. What a month. Wow. Um, I'm trying to bring some positivity today. I know there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Big week coming up, some nervous energy, of course, which all is very understood. Lots going on in this world. So thank you for taking some time today. What I would encourage you to do is give yourself this 30 minutes to sort of block out everything else if you can, right? Don't worry about Tuesday. Don't worry about all the other things. Give yourself this time to focus on your business, focus on your life, focus on creating a better version of you, because that's a lot what we're talking about today is in the world of optimization and automation is how you can essentially leverage your time and leverage what you do best so you can focus on what matters most. I think when we hear words like optimization, automation, our ears perk up, we get excited, but how do we actually do it? How do we put it into practice? How do we make it work for us? So it's not a big scary thing. And that's why I'm so excited to have Tess here today. So Tess is the Director of Client Experience at Lemonly. You've been with us for what, if you count the kind of job time, like 6 years, something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So it's a great story. It's kind of like early version of optimization and automation. Tess was in college and we hired her to scan all of our papers, our contracts, our documents, and then put them into the cloud, and they got dropped into Dropbox because we wanted to be like a paperless office. And I remember you just sit there in the room and scan the papers one after another. And she was interested, although she probably, what, you thought you wanted to be like a PT in college, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then she said, "Hey, can I apply for that Lemonly internship?" And we said, "Yeah." And she was the best candidate by far and was a great intern, and we hired her and just worked her way up the company. So I'm pretty excited for you guys to hear from Tess today, one of our great lemon heads, and she's really driven Lemonly's efforts in this topic of optimization and automation. And so I will say, in our world, really in every business, it's increasingly more difficult to do things efficiently, profitably. Clients want things faster. Clients want things cheaper. And we're trying to meet their needs, but also run a business and pay our people and have some profit at the end of the day. So one of the ways we've tried to combat some of that pressure is to optimize and automate and let some of the machines do some of the work. And this is just a fraction of that topic today that we can cover in just 30 minutes, as Tess will allude to. But we wanted to kind of lay the foundation of how you think about this. And I'll say one more thing and I'll let Tess take over. But I think one thing that I found interesting, this is an effort we started about 12 months ago at Lemonly last fall. And it's been a gradual, like we continue to get better and we continue to implement these processes gradually, which I'm sure Tess will touch on. But you don't have to be a computer engineer. You don't have to be an Excel wizard. You don't have to, kind of even be like a tinkerer mindset. I would say Tess in particular, really her superpower at Lemonly is people, is relationships, connections, and empathy and understanding. But she's really taken over this, even though, I would say you're a people person, and yet you can figure out some of these things are just connecting dots and thinking about processes. And so, yeah, anybody can do it is what I'm trying to say. So with that, we got some great faces. Welcome, Amanda, Kelsey, Lisa, Nick, Ryan, Tess is here, Ty. Go ahead and put in the chat where you're calling from. We always like to see where people are, as Leadmore folks are all over. And Tess knows we'll have time at the end for questions. So she does have a little presentation. So I'm going to let her take Brookings, Sioux Falls, welcome. Got some Harrisburg. That's good. We got a lot of South Dakota folks here today. Of course, if you're watching this live, the recording, that'll be in Leadmore, Fort Collins, Colorado. Welcome, Ryan. Presho, got some West River. I like it. So, Tess, go ahead and take over. I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going to share. Just going to start off by sharing my screen. So let me know when you can see this.
Yeah, we got it.
We got it. Okay, perfect. Okay, yes. So I am going to be talking about optimizing and automating processes. And as John said, I should just jump here. My name is Tess, and I am born and raised in South Dakota. I currently live in New York, and I am the Director of Client Services at Lemonly. And again, this kind of evolved as, I think, just years of being a project manager and realizing that there are a lot of things that we do every day that are repeated and that we could make more efficient and better. And so about a year ago now, we actually, John sent the project management team to New York to a workshop about all of this. And from that moment, it really has changed the way we actually completely overhauled our entire project management system. And I know that project management at Lemonly means we're working with designers and designs and drafts and Adobe Illustrator and those things, but project management, whatever title it is, you can kind of strip that away. Every single business has processes and multiple processes. It's basically the way that every single business is run. So as he said, this can also apply to personal life, but it doesn't, it's very, it can apply to anyone's work type or where you're at in your work, in your career, I should say. So I first want to just check in with where you are in your current state. So I have a little scale here, processes. So there's, when you think about documenting your processes, and a really good gut check for this is when you are thinking about onboarding someone. So every summer, and it's changed a little bit, but every summer Lemonly has usually a group of interns, and part of that is training them on what we do. And this is great for us because it happens every single summer. But if you are training someone and you're starting to explain something and you realize there's all these factors and you're just there's nothing for them to look at and to follow, that is no documentation, or things are documented, but they might be out of date or unusable at that point. So I'm not going to you don't have to drop it in the chat. I don't want to do like a teacher mode here, but
No, I
definitely
like it. I like it. I like it. I think
okay.
I think it'd be good.
Okay.
In
Okay,
the chat,
perfect.
if
So
you are
drop in the
thinking,
chat.
and I would say, I'll admit, like some of our, Lemonly, we're moving up on the documentation scale on some things, but there are other things we definitely, for instance, Amberly just went on maternity leave, and we're kind of like, wait a minute, how does that work when she does that? And so some things are all over. So yeah, we'd love to hear from folks in the chat on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being every single thing, like, and what's the process like? You should be able to explain it to like a 5th or 6th grader could read this document, right?
Yes. So ask yourself, do you have documented processes that are clear, that are usable, that are updated, and that are tested? Okay, we've got some.
Okay.
We're just
Some 3 to
this is good.
4, 3. It's good, yeah.
And be honest, truly, this, like, you're not being graded. So just like be honest with yourself as to where you're at. So where do you start? So obviously we have some, uh, I'm reading the chat as I'm talking. I shouldn't be doing that. Obviously we have some people that have room to improve. And if you're a 9, you shouldn't probably even be on this call. So hopefully you should be, so like 5 under. So you say, I need to document my processes, things need to be optimized. So where do I start? First off, start with your essential processes. So the things that you do every day. You do not need to, currently we actually need to review our onboarding process, but we're not hiring every day. So don't start with that. So start with the things that you actually do every day when you get to work, go to your office in your house or open up your computer and start. Then bottlenecks. So if there's a person or if there's an area in the business that it's like everything always halts when it gets here, that is another great place to start. And I just put small, like start small. This could be, I have a great example of when you, like when you're trying to schedule something with someone. What is that process like? Do you go to your calendar? If there's multiple people that need to be in the meeting, do you have to bring up their calendar as well? Is it hard to get people on the same page? That's literally just scheduling a meeting. It's the simplest thing. So just start small and just don't get too overwhelmed. So now you say, okay, I have a bottleneck, I have an essential process that we could optimize. Now what do I do? Now I think is the fun part. You actually get to map it. And this is a very, I want to say it's it can be uncomfortable, and the fact that you might feel like you're writing things down that are silly, but you actually have to write down step by step, click by click, on what you do and what happens. And our big goal at Lemonly is we try to reduce the amount of clicks. And as I just gave the calendar example, you click to open your calendar, you click to add the people that are also in the meeting, you click to open your email, you enter those times, you send the email. So that's 4 to 5 steps right there, just trying to schedule a meeting. So mapping takes a couple of different forms. When we used to be in the office, this is quite an old photo, we actually we purchased the newspaper from the Argus that they print the newspaper on. You could buy a huge roll.
Like
and
the
we still have
rolls, the paper rolls, yeah.
Yeah. And we would put it up in the office, and we would have sticky notes, and it would be very interactive. Obviously, we were all in the office. Now, this photo or this screenshot right here, and actually I'm gonna let you into this because we are currently going through our processes, but we actually work on this tool called Ryboard. And as I mentioned, we have a lot of different processes. So there's not just the creative process at Lemonly. There's a briefing process. Are you making sales? There's a sales process. But then after the sale is made and before the work begins, there's that period. There's a completion process after something finishes. And then for us, we also have an invoicing process, but depending on how you work. But there's so many different types of processes. So this is kind of the digital version of this picture here. But then also, as John just mentioned, one of our teammates is out on maternity leave. So she documented all of her processes on a Google Doc. It's just as it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, and you can see it says one of her things is scroll down to the section. Like you might think, oh, I have to tell them to, go to this section or click this open up your calendar. So it's very tedious, but to get to the automation process, you can't just say, well, start design, finish design, send the thing, send the draft, because that's really not what you do. You do a lot. You have to set up the files or whatever you're doing.
And to interrupt you, I think a lot of the opportunity comes from when you go to the granular detailed level, then you start to connect dots and be like, wait a minute, if step 2 went to 5, we probably wouldn't need to do 3 and 4 type of thing. But you don't know that until you get to that level of detail.
Exactly. And I will say too, when you do map, you start by writing out exactly how it happens right now. Even if that is extremely inefficient and you're embarrassed by it, that's okay. You have to understand where you're at to review, and sounds very cliche, but like to get to where you want to go. So you have to really look at what are we doing right now and why is it not working? And then you go to a future state. So we always start with our current state. And even though you have ideas during the current state of how you want to work moving forward, you have to wait until you map out your future state.
The other thing I'll add on that point, sorry, Tess, to keep interrupting you, but I know for some of the folks on the team, Ty with Dakota Resources or Kelsey, Expansion Capital, make sure you get all the necessary stakeholders in that room. Tess had that picture of that team. And I think we even at the beginning, we kind of stepped back, like, this is a pretty expensive meeting, right? That's what, 7 people. You guys do that for sometimes 2 hours. And, if it's a sales, then I got to be in there. If it's a design, it needs people that are involved in that. And so it is a commitment. But like you said, we did that OG one years ago, and it still is kind of
2016.
Our version 1. We still work off of that. I mean, we've iterated since then. So yes, commit to it, but it'll be worth it.
And the first one will take the longest. So once you do it one time, it's so much more efficient after. But know that when we were in person, we typically would block off a 4-hour day. It was a half day, and we would commit to it and do it. But now we can get it done in like 2 hours. So just know that the first one will take a long time, and give yourself the time to do that. So what do you do after you've done all of this? Biggest thing is make sure that the documentation and what you have documented, so you've done your current state, and then you finish with your future state. And that is what you want to do, and that is what you want to do moving forward. So you make sure that that is accessible to everyone who needs it, and then you test it out and you edit it. You could do this once every quarter, once every 6 months, depending on how many different things that are moving in your business or in your personal life, you could do it every month. But it's, as John said, like it takes time, and you also need time to work to do it and test it. So give yourself the time, the appropriate time to test it before you start iterating again. Okay, so now we're at automate. Again, check in with your current state. So as I said, our goals are less clicks, and automation, it is the biggest thing that can help. We're not truly trying to do more, we're trying to do less. So automation, don't even know what it means. I try, but it's not really a part of my workflow. We do have some automations incorporated, or everything's good to go. So you can drop
So let's do that in the
in.
chat as well. Now, most likely, this would probably be a score often even lower than your documentation, I would think. But maybe some things, maybe some people have other parts of their life that they do automate a little bit better. So
Oh yeah, nice.
we have it. Yeah, we got 2, we got a 5-ish, 5 to 6, we got a 3. Yeah, okay, I was wrong. So maybe
Okay.
not.
Okay, so why is it so great? First of all, time. As I said, we're truly not really trying to do more here. We're trying to do less of the things that aren't as important and that aren't truly moving our business forward. Those clicks, that's not going to do it for you. Scalability. So the biggest thing here is we're trying to do more with your current team, or trying to do more with less. And this isn't about like replacing people. It's just, we want to open these people's minds so that they can be doing, like, helping the business open up for new opportunity. It's not about saying like, okay, we're cutting your job. It's just, instead of moving things around and just passing things through, you now get to explore this because all of that is automated. So we're not trying to replace everyone, but we're doing more with less, or doing more with the current team. And less room for error. So this is really important for us, is if there's any time that you are needing to gather details for something, or that you're needing just kind of key ingredients to move forward, if an automation is there to remind you, or an automation is there to gather those details, there's less room for error, because we're humans, we forget things, and if it's automated, it will never forget. And then obviously, this kind of goes with the scalability and the time, truly with all of it, that this can save you a lot of money and your business a lot of money as well. So what do you want to automate? When you do this, I always do that. So if there is something that you currently do that when this happens, when a sale is made, when a client emails you this, when they commit to something, or whatever it is, if you always do something after that trigger, that can be automated. Things that machines can do faster than humans. So I will go back to the calendar example. There's a tool that we use called Calendly, and it automatically pulls availabilities from multiple people's calendars. So that can do it faster than you can, and it just sends you a link. So if it can do it faster than you can, you should just lean on that. Steps in your process where details get missed and there's room for error. So again, that's just repeated from last time. If there's a part in your process that you need a lot of details, try to automate that as much as possible so that you aren't forgetting, and that the pressure to remember all of that is not on you. And then something that triggers something else. So that goes back to the, when I do this, I always do that. So you have something in your process, you're like, great, I can automate this. And I started with the Calendly example because that is a super low-hanging fruit. As the third bullet point says, start small. So I would just start with one thing, because once you get one thing, it's very motivating to do another and to do another. But use tools. There's a tool called Zapier. I'm not going to get into these right now. If you have questions, we can definitely follow up. And it's called If This Then That. Yes, is the second one. And that's actually really good for personal stuff as well. But those are tools that they connect, I don't want to say platforms, but they basically connect different mediums to one another. So they'll make Google Slides talk to Trello, or talk to Basecamp, or they'll make your calendar talk to your email, or things like that. But they basically connect things so that you don't have to be connecting them yourself. And then it's also eliminating having to say, even if it's a trigger setup, to tell someone else to do something. You don't always have to go to that person and say, okay, now this is ready for you. There could be something set up that says, hey, John, Tess just submitted this. It's ready for you to take it. You don't have to go in and do that yourself. And then just
that
keep
one's
it.
big, I think, in our now remote world, right? Where we're trying to
Yes.
be a little bit more asynchronous. Tess now is on the East Coast, so she's an hour ahead. Like, we just don't want to have anybody be a bottleneck. And so she can keep moving forward, and whoever else needs to know what they need to know is pinged or notified automatically. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And then just keep iterating and keep evolving. Lemonly is, I should know this, 10 years old?
9. Yeah. It's
9,
okay.
okay. Feels longer. But we have done mappings. That one was you saw us mapping in 2016. It is currently our quarterly goal right now that we are remapping all processes. So we don't have a set timeline as to when we do it, but we're 4 years later and we're still reviewing our infographic process, which is what we did on day one. I just showed it to you, and we're still bringing in new tools and new things to make it better, and just, yeah, exploring new things. So keep evolving, because it is a process. You're not just going to finish it and it's going to work for the rest of time. So this is an exercise I'm not sure how we can share this out, but very good to start to get your kind of the muscle going of how can I start to optimize, how can I start to automate, and what things can I do this with in my personal life, in my business life. So you write down 20 things you do, and you might think that this is like, I email clients. Okay, well, we'll break that apart. Like, you email them timelines, you email them proposals, you email them ideas, you email them meetings. Like, get specific and you'll get to 20. And then in the next column, you write out 14 things that you will no longer do. And then the replacement plan and the order of replacement. So 14 feels like a lot, but it's actually, once you get into this exercise, it's extremely doable. And the replacement plan is this going to be delegated to someone else? Is this going to be a Zap that it talks to it? Is this going to be Calendly that it can already send my calendar links for me? And then order of replacement is you just write down priority, replacement date, and then once these 14 things are off of your plate, what are 7 things that you would like to add that will add more value? And then
I think
last part,
in that third column, sorry to go back quick, the replacement plan, there's kind of 3 options, right? It's basically delegate, automate, or just sometimes stop doing, right? Like,
yeah,
once you
exactly.
write those things down, you're like, wait a minute, that's not even important. It's not valuable. It's a waste of my time. And so
Exactly.
what we'll do at Tess, I think we'll screenshot this, or Nick will put some sort of homework in Leadmore. And what I'd love to hear people do after you do it, is sort of see that maybe where did you end up? Like, what are things that you now can add because of things that you're getting rid of? And probably you'd suggest, I guess, Tess, to like maybe stagger those replacement dates. You're not going to get them all at once, right?
Right. Yes. Start small.
Yeah.
Start small.
But yeah, and you did it kind of fun as an exercise in our leadership team meeting. Kind of did like a timer, right? How did you do that? Because it kind of forced you to think fast. Do you think that's the way to do it?
Yes, I will. I'll put when we share it out, I'll put a time limit on it for you, because yes, you could sit and think about all these things you do for it. Really, I think it was like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and then maybe 2 minutes for the rest of it. So it really was like, think about it, get in the zone, do it, and then, so I'll add those times to it. I forgot about that. That's a good point.
We got some good comments
lastly,
in the chat too. Sorry, Lisa says, I love it. Kelsey says, yes, I was going to ask for the screenshot, so something we can pass along. We'll put that in. And Nick said, yeah, we'll post it in the community. So cool.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think the last part is we just have accountability, depending on whether you run your own business or it's a team. Right now, Lemonly's, it's a rock, so it's my responsibility. I have to report to our leadership team and say, we're doing this, this is where we're at. So use the community to help you, and also say, hey, I used Calendly and it changed my life, and here's a hack you can do. Share it with your community. You know, we're trying to help each other, as we're all remote, for the most part, remote right now. And then, as John said too, the personal life aspect of it. This does not, I know that there are things, you can save things on Pinterest now, you can save things on Instagram. It's like you have all these different fun things in different places. You can start to work to automate your personal life as well, because I don't have children yet, but I know that you have less time and less time and less time. So definitely make sure that you review your personal processes as well. That's all I've got.
Well, so before we open up to questions, I'm going to say a little bit. I think everybody in our group today is officially already, people live, I should say, Leadmore members. We are, for those of you regulars, lots of familiar faces. Some of this content we're going to start to open up publicly because we were thinking, and you guys can certainly, I'll probably reach out to you guys for feedback, validate this. The real value of Leadmore is in that community, right? That accountability, that discussion, having people like Tess to ask these questions, Kelsey, when we talked about asking for, pay raises, Jade talked about doing the vision board. The value is in the community, we believe. So we want more people in that community. So we're going to open up some of this content. So if you're watching this because you saw my tweet or YouTube and you're not a member, Leadmore, of course, is a community where we're trying to inspire and grow more leaders. So right now we have over 50 people in this community. Every week we have new content just like this. We call it Leadmore Live. I do videos on mindset and leadership. And then we have just a lot of great questions and answers, people reaching out to each other and connecting on a personal level. And so it's been really fun to have, whether that be an accountability partner, even like a shoulder to kind of lean on when you need it, right? And so that's really what's been super cool. And we'd love to see more folks joining the community. So with that, let's Test is perfect on time. So let's take some time for questions. To put them in the chat right now, I see Lisa, I'd love to hear more about tools like Calendly. Tell us a little bit about how we use that. I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, there are so many amazing tools. I would say truly our favorites currently are Zapier, just because it has so many capabilities. So I think the first three I would start with are Calendly, Zapier, and IFTTT, because those really communicate between any two platforms. So if you, I'm trying to think of other, like your calendar can talk to Microsoft Teams, can talk to Slack, can talk to anything. Definitely, I think for us, Zapier, IFTTT, and Calendly are the top three we use. So explore those. And once you completely master them, then we can dive into more. But I think those are the best three to start with for sure. And Calendly, like I said, lowest hanging fruit. You'll never have to look at your calendar again and say, I think I'm available at this time. You just send, there's actually a Chrome extension and also a Safari, and there's an extension for each browser that you can just pull a link right out of Calendly. So Calendly is awesome. You can set up different types of meetings. It's amazing.
I should say in that basic level for both Calendly and Zapier, you can use them for free. I mean, to the level that you need to. We pay for Calendly because we have a little bit more complexity or more people on it. But Lisa, like I use it. I remember the first time someone sent me a Calendly link, and I was a little bit like, I said, hey, let's grab coffee, and they said, cool, book a time here, link. And at first I was like, whoa, like they don't even have time to like tell me when they're available or what. And then I realized, wait a minute, this is so smart, because we've talked here in Leadmore about time blocking. We've talked about creating habits and routines. You can then preset in your Calendly when you even want to meet, right? So like if you're a 8 to 10 a.m. person is my, workout, read a book, meditate, or whatever you need to do, check my email, but you don't want to have meetings, then you can do that. Or like Friday, I do Leadmore. I do I do a lot of errands. I kind of do house cleaning. I don't have a lot of not house cleaning, like housekeeping, I should say, in terms of like my inbox, and so I don't have Calendly's turned off for me. So clients actually, and like I think a good example for our Lemonly people is Tuesdays, right? We don't usually try to meet on Tuesdays because we want our designers to have time blocks of focused work. So that's another just kind of easy win, just starting to use Calendly, then going to the let's try to pick a time and back and forth and all those emails, and then you don't even have the right location or the Zoom link. And so,
and it's time zone too, which is very helpful because it's always
good point.
Like it automatically will book
adjust,
on your correct time zone.
What other questions we have for Tess? Ty says, we have 2 people on our team who handle activity support, and they handle all the tools we use. They would love this session. That's great. Amanda uses Calendly. That's awesome.
And I was just going to
No, go
say,
ahead.
as far as I know that sometimes Calendly has free options, Zapier has free options until you get up to a certain, I think, amount of zaps, they actually call it. And I would just say if you do have to pay for it, or if you get to the point of we need more, just look at the ROI on all of it. Because yes, it might be an additional, line item in your budget, but just look at, hopefully you're opening up new doors, maybe bringing in new types of revenue because you're saving time. So I think it's an investment. Also, Lemonly is so pro hacking, sharing logins, all of that stuff as well. Like, we are not
Yeah.
above that by any means, but just like, it's definitely it's an investment. So I wouldn't stray away from the like a payment if you have to.
Amanda touches on kind of on what you're saying. I was thinking, she said it's hard to find the trade-off of going down the software rabbit hole versus time savings. I'm currently more of a one-woman show. And I totally get that, right? We see a software tool and the landing page has these great characters, design things that Lemonly does, all these value propositions, and it's only $19 or it's only $29 or it's only $9, and you start to kind of grab all these things, and now you're paying for all this stuff on your credit card and wondering if you're even using it. But I think if you switch the mindset to what Tess is saying, to like, what can you do with that time instead, right? And we've talked about that in here during office hours, the 10, 100, $1,000 task, right? So a lot of this stuff that we're talking about today is $10 tasks that can be automated. So if you do that thing every single day, that $10 adds up and it's worth a $19 subscription, right, Tess?
Yeah, and I would say, I think it's really easy as you start to think about optimizing and automating to jump into tools. Like, let's go look at what this tool can do. Let's go look at what this tool can do. And yes, these web pages are beautiful. Go back to the mapping and really see what you need, because there might be a tool that could fulfill one need, but it's a need that maybe isn't quite as essential. So make sure you look step by step as to what things could truly help you versus getting caught up in, oh, this is just cool and I want to kind of
Sure.
try it out and then I forget to cancel my membership. So like, Lemonly uses Trello. It is not the most beautiful project management software. That, Monday is beautiful, Asana is beautiful, but for what we need and our processes, Trello is by far the best avenue for us. So just really, really cut out the noise, get your pen and paper, write it down, and understand, like, I need a tool that does this, and then go search for that specifically, if that helps.
Yeah, I think that's good. From a marketing perspective, Ty says, being the only marketing person, I recently implemented a tool called Lucid Press, and our team can access templates, brand assets, which prevents me from being a bottleneck and empowers them. That's great. Yeah, and I think there is that training process. I think that's a thing we talk about at Lemonly. There was a time, I think we've gotten better, but we'd be like, I especially would be like, let's try this new tool. And everyone's like, oh, it's one more tool. And I think in that mapping process that you're showing there, Becca, who really taught us how to, every time we have a tech, like a tool or a tech touch point, we note that, right? And
Yep.
so it's like, go to Gmail, tick,
Yep.
send a Calendly link, tick, upload it to Trello, tick. And we started to look at them, and what happens is, like, some of them have 8, 9, 10 ticks, and some of them have like 1 or 2. And then that's where we realized, like, maybe we could just combine, right? Like, we kind of like that tool, but we could pretty much get halfway there on Trello, because Trello has helped us. We've lost a lot of tools by combining into Trello.
Yep. And you're right. I love that you said the training process was a hurdle. Like, this does not happen overnight. There's no overnight success. So yes, Trello, we trained it. You really have to put the time into the training. And as John said, there's 7 people in that meeting. That's a lot of people, but we're so much better for it. It's an investment. It's a time investment. So definitely put the time into it. New tools scare our team. I can relate to that a little bit. You'll be fine. People just move forward with it. Same, but we have that too. You're fine.
let's see if there's any more questions. Get them in here before we wrap up to watch them live. I will say Tess is a member of Leadmore. She signed up, and so she'll be in there too. You can tag her. I don't know if people know that, but in your post, whether it be under the
Oh,
Leadership Talk channel or a comment under the Leadmore Live, you can do the @ just like on Twitter, and then tag a person. I think then you would get an email or notification.
awesome.
I wanted to ask you, Tess, since you're kind of a year into this mindset and methodology, and I think approached it correctly, where it's been very gradual and kind of easing into it. On the personal side, is there anything you've done in your kind of life? You and Joel just moved to New York, you're getting married in 60 days. Anything that you've done to automate tasks or to-dos or create more space in your life?
Yes, I have incorporated Trello into my personal life. And there are always things, as I alluded to it just a little bit, and this isn't huge, but when there are things that I want to read or podcasts that I want to listen to or things I want to buy or things that I think are good gifts for people, I have a Trello board that's, I think it's just called personal. I don't even know what it's called, but it has different columns and it says to read, to listen, to buy, gift ideas, skincare, like things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have it comes from my phone. If I like something or if I screenshot something, it will automatically, I can have it go right to that board and right to that column. So there's great things on the internet when you're just browsing mindlessly, but if you lose them, then they're gone. So that's then when I go to buy things or when I need gift ideas or when I'm going on a walk and want to listen to a podcast, I always spend too much time like browsing what I want to listen to and what kind of a mood I'm in, and then I just click the top one and go for it.
Yeah,
So that's small, but it
yeah.
definitely is. It's kind of like a funnel of all the information that's coming at me that I want to keep. So
Well, I think the workshop we went to, Ari Mizell, he talks about we need our brains need a dumping ground, like a place,
yes.
because then we're just anatomically we're built to forget these things, because if they're not super important, we're gonna let them go. And so yeah, whether it be Trello or Notion or Pinterest or Roam, whatever you use, you need some place to dump this stuff. So Nick, you're here on the call too. I want to ask you, because you're kind of a Trello whiz as well. Anything that you use on the personal side to implement Trello in your life?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of power-ups that I use on Trello. So, Tess, you talked about like if there are things that repeated tasks, like is sort of the lowest hanging fruit for automation. And so, on both my Lemonly boards, my personal board, whatever, I use the card repeater power-up because I know that there are certain tasks that I do, every day, every week. And I can set them to, I tend to sort of plan out my weeks on Sunday. So Sunday morning at 9 a.m., all of my like recurring weekly to-do cards populate in their correct day on my Trello, on my Lemonly Trello board and stuff. And so that just takes the burden of like having to remember those tasks and then also sort them on a weekly basis. So that's just a really simple one that's helped me. But definitely, I think that there are more opportunities, in my personal life and even in as sort of like in my employee life to find opportunities for automation. But yeah, I think it's an easy way to start.
That's great.
Yes, I will speak to Amberly, who is out on maternity leave. She has one for her personal life, and it's like every month. I know that like she has to do certain things for her kids and stuff like that and school things, and she has them automate and they just recur every month, which is more organized than I'll ever be, but that's just amazing. So
Well, this is great. And I know there's a lot of interest, some great comments in here. Brain dumping, Amanda says, is my favorite thing. She also referenced a tool called ClickUp, which is cool. I always say the best productivity tool is the one that you adapt yourself, right? So I think the most important thing is that, we talked about 8 for the day during last month's or October's office hours. It's kind of like this thing. I tell people about it. So it works for some and maybe not for others, but like I adapted it and now it's kind of my hobby and routine, or habit, not a hobby. But so I think the tools, they all do more or less the same thing as we were talking about. So if you like it and it works for you, definitely stick to it. Lisa says that's genius. I love it. So yeah, we can bring either Nick or Amberly or Tess to share some of their Trello hacks on the personal life sometime here in Leadmore. So, all right, Tess, anything to finish with? Any closing thoughts?
No, I think, yeah, please like reach out if you have questions. This has become one of my favorite parts of my role at Lemonly, is making people's lives better and making things work more efficiently. So please reach out if you have any questions. And I know that John is an amazing leader and has a great community here. So definitely join if you haven't joined. The information, as he said, it's just invaluable to be able to bounce ideas back and forth and to share pain points and work through them. So thank you for having me. And I look forward to hopefully talking with some of you more.
Yeah, great work, Tess. Thank you. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and thanks for joining today's Leadmore Live. It's November this weekend, which is crazy. So we'll start the first week of the month like we typically do with November office hours. I'll be live. Anybody can come on and ask questions. In week 2, we have Carla White talking about gratitude. We thought that was appropriate for the season as we head toward Thanksgiving, and some mindset and gratitude stuff. And then in week 3, Rick Melmer from Leadership South Dakota, who was on the podcast previously, is going to come specifically talk about DISC, like taking the DISC assessment and using what your answer is, your strengths, to kind of be the appropriate and the best leader you can be. So that's going to be a fun one as well. So thank you. We'll put the recording here in Leadmore, and you guys all have a great weekend. So take care, everybody. Be well.